So Ken, you've been in business for some time. You've done such excellent work and work with so many different people. Can you share with us some tips for someone that's possibly interested in starting a business, or someone that may be questioning their ability to run a business at the present moment just because of what's happened?
I would say, off the top of my head, a few tips are: one, surround yourself with good people and smart people and people that can help you and people that you can work with. Maybe you can help them, they can help you, that where there's a symbiotic synergy. Surrounding yourself with good people is so important. We have a client who wanted to offer coffee in their smoothie shop just to make themselves more attractive to more customers. And we were able to connect them with another client that distributed coffee. And so people really make so many things about your business better, whether it's, finding employees, it's just so many things. So the first thing is surround yourself with good people, smart people, and talented people. And I think my second thing is learn from people who are doing it successfully. A lot of people think a lot of our advice is from me or what I think, and it's really not. It's from my clients who are smarter than me, my mentors who are smarter than me, my mentors who are richer than me. Not that I'm rich, but you know what I'm saying. They're rich and I'm not. It's from people who I borrow from them and I say, do it this way because I've seen this work 10 times and this is what they told me. So learn from people who, if you want to open a coffee shop, look at all the other coffee shops around you. If you want to open a smoothie shop, look at all the successful smoothie shops. One, surround yourself with good people. Two, learn from other people's mistakes. Really observe and watch. And then the third thing I would say is be open. Be open. People are so rigid. I want to do it this way. I don't want to do that. This COVID thing has just hit so many people in the mouth. And if you weren't diverse enough in how you make money, you're probably shut down right now. So never accept good. Never accept good. Good will get you shut down in a pandemic. If your profit margin is 15%, try to push for 30. That 30 can give your business more runway if you get into a problem. Right now you may have three months on hand of runway. But if you boosted your profit margin, you might have 6 months on hand right now. Who knows? Those 6 months might buy you some time until a stimulus check comes. Really be open to what it takes to survive. Don't be a one-trick pony. Make money a few different ways. There's so many people that just depended on walk-in traffic.
Yeah.
Deliveries, there's pickups, there's festivals. There's so many ways to make money. Don't be a one-trick pony. Be open to what's out there. So those are my three things. Surround yourself with good people, learn from others doing what you want to do, and be open and flexible and versatile and diverse. It will help you survive a lot of problems.
All phenomenal information, Ken. I'm taking mental notes, and then I'm later taking notes and putting them on my little sticky pads later. But no, it's great information. I think it's going to resonate with a lot of people. One last thing I want to touch on: you grew up in Cabrini Green, in pretty much Humble Park, almost around,
not far away.
Yeah, well, not far away at all. So that's why I wanted to bring it up, just because of the makeup of these two neighborhoods, specifically in the era that we grew up in. I was born in 81, so I pretty much grew up in Humble Park in the 80s and the 90s. So those that aren't familiar with that neighborhood, it was pretty rough. So those that aren't familiar with Cabrini Green, if you don't know it more than what it is today,
worst housing project in the country in the 80s.
Yeah, there was a lot of was it the president or the mayor that went into the Cabrini Green homes one year, and he had he had a crazy amount of security. It was the mayor, right?
I believe it was the mayor, and I believe it was
in the 80s, right?
Yeah, it was one of the mayors. I don't remember if it was Jane Byrne or somebody like that, or the person before her, but I lived there when that happened. Yeah, I remember that. I don't remember specifically who, because I was a kid, but I lived there when that happened. I mean, the things that I saw and the things that I know, you can't unsee. And I was embarrassed for most of my life to even tell people. And then when I got over the embarrassment where I could talk about it, most people didn't believe it. You get the stereotypes. Oh, you speak too well. You do this, you do that. I can't imagine you being there, and things like that. But not only was I from there, when you grow up in that society, there is an interesting dichotomy of subcultures within that society. And so subcultures is like hood rich, you know? So in the hood, there were people that really weren't that poor in the hood. For instance, drug dealers weren't that poor in the hood. They had sweet cars, sweet places, you know, things like that. There were people scamming Social Security and things like that, getting what they call checks, tons of welfare checks, you know, multiple people in a house where they had tons of cash flow going. You know, there were people in the hood that had a little bit of money. You know, there were those people that had Jordans and Nintendos and, you know, and there was that class of people. But then there was a class of people that didn't have heat, didn't have water, didn't have food all the time. And so you had the hood rich and the hood poor. I was the hood poor. So not only did I grow up in the hood, I was the hood poor. I wasn't the kid running around with Jordans and a Nintendo. I was the kid that didn't have heat, that didn't have, you know, hot water, that didn't have food. And so there are some interesting things that people just don't really know and understand about that culture unless you lived in it and breathed in it. Cabrini is not that far from the Gold Coast. I went to Latin. Latin is, I think, literally a mile walk from Cabrini. Mm-hmm. Crazy about Latin is most of my friends in Cabrini never went that far out of Cabrini to know where the Gold Coast was. Most of them never left out of the walls of that project. They didn't know what Latin was. They never went to the Lincoln Park Zoo. I mean, that close. When you think about how close Cabrini is to the Gold Coast, it's mind-blowing.
I think that speaks a lot in terms of like the effects of gangs, because I mean, everything that you're saying resonates 100% with me, because I grew up in, you know, same neighborhood. But I think a big part of that was because so many of the youth that I grew up with, they were gang related, and you couldn't go to certain neighborhoods because
you couldn't cross certain streets, you couldn't go past certain corners
because you were in enemy territory. So
invisible lines, and you had to be careful what you wore.
Yeah, that's it.
You know,
colors. Remember when cross colors came out in the real popular Duke University? Like you can't wear certain, you know, certain neighborhoods. You know, like it's
you had to know what gang had certain streets and areas and what colors those were, so you could not wear those colors and be mistaken. It was a big deal.
And then the other part of it too is just getting jumped because you had something fresh on. You had something. If you had the latest Jordans and you're walking around the wrong neighborhood,
you get beat up, get jumped, and get them taken. Yeah. And then for me, because I was hood poor, I wasn't hood rich, it was a different reason why you were jumped. So if you had the Jordans, they jump you and take the Jordans. But if you had the Pro Wings, they jump you just because they knew you were uncool. You know, you were like Pro Wings.
Those were the shoes that ended up in the light poles.
Mm-hmm. They jump you just because they knew you weren't cool. They knew you were hood poor. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Yep. Same thing here, man. Like my family grew up very poor, immigrants from Mexico. My father worked at a jewelry store as a busboy, and 10, 15 years later, he ended up managing it. But yeah, man, growing up in a really bad neighborhood like Humboldt Park, same thing, having to be careful of what you wore. And during that era, my parents really couldn't afford like the name brand stuff anyway, but I think that was a good thing at that time, you know, considering that I was in. And I remember getting teased a lot because of it. It's just one of those things that, do you feel like it's impacted your drive for business? Like not that, you know, where you come from makes who you are, but because of the circumstances and where you came from, do you feel like an added drive and motivation to be successful?
Absolutely. So one is you have a drive to not be poor, because my family is historically poor. We're poor because we were poor before I was born. You know, we're not passing money down. You know, so you always feel like you're poor because you know what your family doesn't have. You know who you can lean on and who you can't. So one, it's always a sense of survival, no matter how much money you make, because you know your whole family doesn't make that. So one is the sense of survival. Two is the sense of toughness. Coming from that background does make you tough and does, you can handle a lot. But I would say one of the things about me that may be a little bit different than other people is by going to a private school so early, I saw what other people had. I saw what rich kids had. I saw what they did, what they wore. I saw their houses during birthday parties. And when you come from one extreme and you see the other, you have the toughness of this extreme, but you have the taste and, the things from this extreme too. And it develops an appetite where you know what you want because you've seen it and you've tasted it and you've experienced it. You want it because you experienced it, but you don't need it. I always tell people, I want a certain amount of success and wealth, but I don't need it. Like, I want it, just because I got the drive to go for it, but I don't need it. Like, I can spend the rest of my life poor and it wouldn't even faze me, because my early life was like that. Wouldn't faze me. I know how to enjoy life without that. But because I did see it and I tasted it, I want it, but I won't be heartbroken if I don't get it. And I think that's one of the unique things about when you're exposed to that other side and you see it. So I do think when you put them together, it creates a pretty unique type of resolve. No, we're about to see that resolve over the next few weeks as we continue to grow.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you so much for sharing your business knowledge.
It was my pleasure.
With us here today. Real quick, where can people find you? How can people reach you?
I would say right now, our division that is focusing on the mobile apps with Square is getpreorder.com. Our mobile app solution is called Preorder, the Preorder app. And so G-E-T, get Preorder. No dashes, just one Get Preorder, getpreorder.com. We have our numbers posted. We're easy to find.